But all the gods of the ancient world were black. From the Nile Valley to Mesopotamia, from India to early Europe, from the Americas to China, divinity had African features. The statues, the sacred texts, the temple paintings, all pointed to one undeniable truth. The earliest gods of human civilization were black. Yet somewhere along the way, this truth was buried, whitewashed, and rewritten. The faces of deities were gradually changed, their histories distorted, their African origins erased. We have found the black complexion, or something relating to it, whenever we have approached the origin of nations, wrote Godfrey Higgins in Anacalypsis. The Alma Mater, the goddess Multimamia, the founders of oracles, the Memnons, or first idols, were always black. Venus, Juno, Jupiter, Apollo, Bacchus, Hercules, Astaroth, Adonis, Horus, Apis, Osiris, Ammon. In short, all the deities were black. The images remain as they were first made in very remote times. To understand this, we have to go back to a time when Africa was the center of the world. Kemet, the land now called Egypt, was the jewel of the ancient world. Its gods were painted black, not simply for symbolism, but because they reflected the people who worshipped them. Osiris, lord of the afterlife, was always depicted with dark skin. The gods of the Egyptians were as black as their priests and their kings, noted European traveller Constantin François Volney in the 18th century. We can see this in their statues and paintings. His observation was backed by others, including the famous scientist and Egyptologist Champollion, who noted the unmistakable African features of the pharaohs and deities. Isis, the great mother goddess, was venerated across Africa and the Mediterranean world. She was the prototype for later representations of the Virgin Mary. Cheikh Anta Diop, the Senegalese scholar, proved through rigorous anthropological and linguistic studies that the civilization of Kemet was Black African, not Middle Eastern or European. The same divine image spread eastward. In India, Krishna, the most beloved god of the Hindu pantheon, was described as Shyam, meaning dark-skinned or black. Vishnu, the preserver of the universe, was depicted with dark blue or black skin, much like Osiris of Kemet. The Buddha, in his earliest representations, was black, with tightly curled woolly hair. Higgins noted in Anacalypsis that the original Buddha was black, and so were his earliest followers. Even in China, traces of Africa's spiritual legacy remained. The Xia and Shang dynasties, some of China's earliest ruling families, had African origins. Ancient Chinese artwork still shows black-skinned deities and noble figures, later modified to fit a different historical narrative. Herodotus, the Greek historian often called the father of history, noted that there were two great Ethiopian civilizations, one in Africa and the other in Asia. This supports Higgins' claim that a very great nation of blacks did rule over almost all Asia in a very remote era, in fact, beyond the reach of history or any of our records. These were the builders, the spiritual leaders, the divine figures. But something changed. Over time, as different cultures came into contact with African civilizations, the image of the divine was slowly altered. Greece and Rome adopted much of their religious and philosophical thought from Africa, but they rebranded it as their own. Martin Bernal, in Black Athena, laid out the case for how the Greeks borrowed heavily from Egyptian religious systems, mathematics, and philosophy. Yet by the time European scholars wrote their own versions of history, they downplayed or outright erased these